Hi Vera, how are you today?
Hi, Ivan. I'm very good today. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you for joining me today. Actually, it's been for a while since my last recording. I almost forgot everything, but so you're gonna be first episode after some of the pause between my episodes, and I'm really excited
Yeah,
to record this one. And we start with a simple question. Could you introduce yourself?
absolutely. No problem. So I'm Vera. I'm 30 years old, and currently I live in Rotterdam with my partner and my cat. Other than that, I have a plant obsession, which started in the Corona times when we couldn't go out of the house. So I just hoarded like a lot of plants. That's about me personally, and about me more professionally. I've been working in AML and fraud prevention for the last 5.5 years. Well, actually, I started off by studying. Studied criminology and law, and well, the criminal mind and a lot of the psychology behind it has always been a great passion of me since I was a child, and also justice, like people being treated fairly. So I had that actually since I was a kid. So I studied criminology and law, and after my bachelor's, I basically wanted to go as far away as possible. Not because I hated everything here, but to just have a change of scenery, let's so to say. So I went to Australia. I studied international law there at the Western Sydney University. It was very interesting. I came back and I did my master's in criminology. And basically, I was recruited quite quickly by EY, where I was in a financial crime department. After that, I was with a fintech, where I was also dealing with onboarding customers and a lot of high risk customers, high risk verticals. Gambling was one of them, one of the biggest portfolios. Very interesting industry, actually. After that, I went to Bank, where I was working for 3.5 years, mostly building their prevention and their transaction monitoring systems. So everything that happens after the transaction has already come in or left the system. And right now, I'm with a crypto company, actually, and it's called Amdax.
That's great. That's a very fascinating experience and already like fascinating journey into fraud. I'm quite curious about like the studying. Is it different to study between Australia and Europe? Is it like different part of knowledge you gain during this study, or it's like something completely the same between these two countries?
Great question. Interesting one. That's not a thing that a lot of people ask. So what was very different actually are the law systems, which was very interesting. Whereas in the Netherlands, where I'm from, you have and I actually forgot the exact name, but you have a system which is ruled by basically one judge, and they will look at the whole investigation. They're very knowledgeable. Whereas in Australia, you have a system. Actually, I will look up the names and get back to you. You have a system where there is a jury, and you have this jury that will decide whether you're guilty or not, and then you have the judge that ultimately decides whether you get what punishment you get, basically. So for me, that was like complete different setup of the law systems. That was very interesting. Other than that, studying university, the people is quite similar. They're both Western countries, I would
Yeah,
say.
that's actually quite makes sense. And another one simple question is like it's again about studying. So, my main concern with the fraud prevention or study something about fraud prevention that the industry quite dynamic and it's changed very quickly. It's like everything changed like in months or days in some days.
True,
So everything
true.
that you learn in the university, how is this still accurate compared what you're doing right now? I mean, from the
That
sharing your, I don't know, your professor experience, something like that.
I think actually, if you look at, I mean, I studied criminology and law. If you look at these studies, um, so what is similar is the crimes, right? I mean, fraud, theft, all of these sort of basic principles, they will always stay the same, but the way they are done is completely different. And I think really, if I look back at my studies, I think we had a little bit about like large corporations and fraud. And I think we had a little bit about money laundering. But other than that, there was basically not anything in my studies that I could use nowadays for my work field that would actually help me. I mean, basic understanding of the law is very important, basic understanding of legislation, but that changes as well very fast. So
Yeah.
no, not so
So the
much.
principles and the main psychology behind Frostus, it remains the same. The main idea, just like to get access to something, to gain reach or something like that. It stays the same. But
Absolutely.
if you're looking on the aspects or types, they are completely different and they change every day, or I don't know, every year for sure.
Absolutely, and that has also to do with technology, right? And technology improving on such an like fast pace that's yeah, it's incredible actually what we can do within a year or within 2 years that what we couldn't do a year ago.
So I want to speak with you about like fraud prevention, risk, IML, everything. What
Yeah,
happens
absolutely.
in
I
Netherlands?
love it.
Yeah, what happens in Netherlands? Is it like many companies open positions in department in these areas? Is it awareness on the government about it increase? Quite curious what happens, and quite interesting about if someone considering to going to work in Netherlands. Do you think it's a lot of the opportunities right now on the market, or it's kind of paused because it's a lot of uncertainty happens in the world?
So if we're looking at the job market, I think there's a lot of opportunity right now. I know when I was looking for a job a couple of months ago, I just wanted something else. They were actually, and especially if you have some experience, there are actually a lot of opportunities right now, on both sides, on both the banks, the fintechs, but also with the government. I mean, if you put in some key search words on LinkedIn, I would definitely say you'll see a lot of job openings, but I would say they are mostly looking, from my experience right now, for more mid senior positions instead of like people coming new market entrants. But there are definitely a lot of opportunities right now.
And speaking of requirements that's needs on the market, is it any particular knowledge everyone looking there? I don't know, technical perspective or some government knowledge, something like that.
Good question. Looking at knowledge, so what I know, for example, if we look a little bit more at AML, whereas the regulators were going pretty harsh on it like 4 or 5 years ago, the times I was basically writing my thesis, you can see right now that the market has become, but also fraud prevention, right? It's become like a lot more mature. So whereas everybody had to learn 4 or 5 years ago, I think right now we already have quite some people with some nice experience. The problem is that everybody wants these people. So going back to your last question, if you have the right skills and you have the right knowledge, and especially if you have a bit more knowledge about um, data, or you have a bit more knowledge about technical applications, technology, they are actually fighting for staff, and you see people working somewhere for 1 year and then they get an offer which is much higher from another company and they move again. So the competition is actually quite fierce, and especially for people with the more on the technical side, with technical knowledge, data knowledge, that know how to set up new systems, that know how to create specific fraud prevention or transaction monitoring rules. There's a lot of opportunity, and a lot of companies are asking for this expertise.
That's great to hear. It's quite good to hear that Netherlands remains the tech hub in the European Union, and it's still the hiring and looking for professionals in the industry as well. But if we speak back to my main questions and we skip about career perspective, what happens in the Netherlands from the fraud prevention? So it's a growing industry, a lot of companies opens, or what do you think about in general happens?
I think there's a lot of, how do you say, there's a big market right now because there's also a lot of opportunity for crime, right? Obviously, if it was very hard for criminals to obtain stolen funds or to launder funds or to process money laundering or either commit fraud, I mean, we wouldn't need as many professionals. But what we can see, so I would say where there's a market for fraud professionals, there's also a market for criminals, right? You wouldn't need as many fraud professionals if there were no opportunities for criminals to steal money or to launder money. So I think one of the reasons why there are so many fraud professionals right now, and that why there are so many more needed, is because crime is still booming. There is still a lot of opportunity to commit fraud, and I think actually right now opportunities are only becoming bigger as technology is just um, it's just increasing. It's just becoming better and better. It's improving at an enormous scale and with a fast pace. So, looking at these new technologies, I think we're not there yet, and I think we will not be there yet in a couple of years.
Yeah, I'm really impressed. I believe you're speaking about a bit of about AI, what happens with this, like the voice covering and video covering, and that a lot of the companies start to put something in place to validate it, but even them who just like I know has some expertise in the industry, they still don't know how to cover specific cases, which is like when you see all these like videos in the LinkedIn when the people show that even rotation of the face no longer help you to do anything. So um, it's quite fascinating. Yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely, it's quite fascinating. Actually, I can tell you a small story. A while ago, and I was actually hurrying for the train. I was just scrolling through LinkedIn, and I saw this fraud professional prevention specialist posting sort of an awareness post, whereas there was a girl and her full ID and her face, and she was holding her ID card were like included in the post. And I was like, well, if this is real and this is not AI generated, like why would you post someone's face and someone's ID online, right? But it was like a prevention post. So I looked up the girl and I found her on Facebook. And there was actually an article written about this. I will send it to you later. And I sent the print screens to her and I sent a link to her to the LinkedIn. I was like, hey, girl, is this you? Like your full idea, your data is online, findable. And people are using this actually on um, several like online sites, whereas you can onboard yourself fully online to like create accounts in your name. Could be bank accounts, could be for any type of thing where they can basically receive or funds or launder funds. And the girl had no idea. She once had created an account for what was it again? It was for a website, and they had a massive data leak. And these photos were taken from their database because it was the only time she had posted these photos, and she had no idea that these were used by a big Russian gang online to actually like um, do fraud or receive stolen funds or anything. So for her, it was a big wake up call. And especially, as you said, with the new deepfake technologies, they only need the photo. They can basically use a program, put a photo of your face on a moving image and go fully through the onboarding. Of course, it's a bit more technical than that,
yeah,
but it's becoming quite dangerous as well. As we're speaking, someone could be cloning my voice. You need 3 seconds, and you can use it to call someone's mom, call someone's dad, say that I'm in financial need. It's becoming more and more easy for criminals. There's a lot of opportunity.
yeah, and I see how they skip
Mm.
themselves because I'm recently also was tried to be scams here in UK. I wrote some post about it.
You were?
Yeah, but I was so impressed how they changed their behavior because I remember like
Oh yeah.
10 years ago when I used to live in Russia, it was like simple call. I'm from head of security of one of the bank. Just provide me your number, credit card number, and I'm gonna protect your credit cards. It was super obvious. Like,
And people still fell
yeah,
for it,
yeah,
probably.
for sure. But it was like pretty simple to catch. However, like 5 years ago, like before COVID, what it was a lot of the calls about like it's tax regulation, we need your bank details to cover the tax, so they know that people really struggling to how to work with the taxes. So
Oh yeah, they know it. They know it. Opportunity is always one of the things that can, even if you're a seasoned crime fighter, that can take you off guard. Um, Anyways, back to your story. Like, what happened? What did they try?
uh and a couple weeks ago it was like I'm so impressed because what happens, so on Saturday evening I got a message from Royal Mail that my package wasn't delivered and for scheduling to follow the link. I was like, you
Yeah.
know, when I see on this story right now, I realize how stupid I was because it was like really bad hyperlink. But I click it, I actually provide my food address, and I provided my credit card number, which is
Oh, and there you
yeah.
go. Yeah.
Luckily, nothing was charged, but the full story
Oh, that's
happens
good.
later on. 3 days afterwards, I getting the push-up message from my bank that they try to charge huge amount of money for my cards, and it was like I need to prove it. And even before I click it to decline, I got a call from security of this bank, and I just like, okay, they just like probably able to catch this one, and they asked me some information, and the person really
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
uh, tried to drive conversation about like, is this security, you need to do it dot, and
I needed to do it
yeah,
quick.
probably you was compromised. Did you get the same kind of messages? I say yes. They say yeah, that's a scam. I just realized how I stupid was, and they say yeah, and it's probably right now. Sorry, we have some technical issues. We're calling you from mobile phone, but we're going to call you from the bank number, and they recall me with one digital difference, which I realized afterwards. The only things that they didn't do well and stop me to realize in the moment when they say, "Okay, we put extra protection on your account, so you need to do a selfie to confirm payment, but we need to test it over," and they
Right.
send it another payments for like, I told them I have about like £200 on account. They send it on 198. As they say,
Right.
just confirm
Of
it.
course.
In next step, it's gonna be selfie. And I realized, no, that's sorry, that's a bullshit.
That doesn't
Yeah,
make sense. That doesn't make sense. But as you say, like you only need one moment that like you're not paying attention or one opportunity that they know and they can completely take advantage of that. So I've actually heard so many stories that I was handling fraud cases like yours, and I'm super happy, by the way, that you didn't fall for it in the end. And but especially with all the knowledge that we have, like I've seen parents that their kid's phone, was actually broken, and the criminal made like an attempt to play something like that, and it made sense to the parents. Or um, there was this instance where actually a colleague of mine, also from a compliance department, she immigrated from an Eastern European country to Holland, and she kept having trouble with her BSN, but actually having trouble with her BSN. And then she was called, and it was the ministry of blah blah blah, and they were telling her that there had been like a classic story, goods shipped on her BSN, and that they had to stop it. And then they were asking her all these questions, but it made sense to her, and she was actually thinking that she's going to be helped because she already had problems with the BSN. So if there is just such an incident that it makes sense, then it takes you just a few minutes to be off guard. It's everybody can fall for it, actually. Like me,
yeah,
you don't have to be. And can you imagine if you're not a
yeah.
professional?
It's super easy right now, and for everyone who don't know what the BSN is, it's analogy of like a social security number for listener from United States, or it's
Okay, yeah.
like
Sorry for
tax
that.
code. Yeah, whatever you call it, it's just in Netherlands calling BSN. I know because I have one. Yeah. So I want to speak with you about like crypto because it is
Sure.
everywhere, and what kind of titles we have about crypto nowadays. So we have half of post to say, is it criminals? It's everyone using crypto to buy weapons, to trade with the people, or this bad information about crypto. Another part of the world who posted like as a new innovation way how to pay for something, how to transfer money abroad with a low fee. What's your personal opinion about crypto?
Well, if I my personal opinion about crypto was bad, I wouldn't work for a company, obviously. Actually, I think crypto is pretty safe in a sense that as soon as a crypto transaction enters the blockchain, it is completely visible from point A to point Z. Right? Doesn't matter where it goes. Even with techniques that we sort of techniques that you can use to obscure funds, such as mixers, so to say, these kind of things, it is still very much traceable, a lot of it. So I think crypto is pretty secure, and the crimes that we see with crypto, where crypto is used for, sorry, they are no different than normal crimes that you can also perform with a bank account, right? I mean, a pig butchering scheme. Not sure if everybody knows what it is, but it's basically sort of an investment scam. It also happened with normal fiat money, like fiat currencies, right? I think it's just the fact that crypto is very fast. You can send it from point A to point B like instantly, which obviously if you send it to a lot of shekels, it gets really hard to get it back. So the technology there and the fact that it is decentralized and there's not just like one owner makes it maybe a little bit harder to get oversight over the environment. But I think in a sense that crypto is much safer actually than normal money.
Yeah, and just correct me if I'm wrong, but this is my personal opinion once again. So people
Sure.
believe that if someone compromises my bank account here in UK and send money over somewhere, I don't know, let's back to my home country in Russia. So, and my
Mhm.
bank proved that my account was compromised. They can simply call to another bank in another country and say, "Return us money back." And the bank in another country say, "Yeah, just let us click a
Sure.
button and money back." Even it might be the same country, so people expecting that is going to be the same. It's
Yeah,
what
absolutely.
people blame crypto for, that if someone compromises your account and send it over, it's not possible to return money. But I believe for the bank accounts to return money to initial accounts is like tremendous work.
It is not so easy. It is not so easy at all, especially what you mentioned already is that when it leaves like one country, that my personal experience in Holland is that the banks here work very well together, and especially in fraud prevention or detection. Actually, afterwards, I see differences between AML and fraud prevention there, but especially the fraud community is like pretty tight knit, and I see more and more of this coming on a European level as well. But going back, if you have one transaction and it leaves my account, let's say it's during the day and it's from my Dutch account to, and they usually pick out the like less stable banks, right? And it goes from my account to like another account at, let's say, a bank in Spain. To get into context, obviously we have the email addresses and we email. Sometimes you have a direct contact if you're in contact with them more often, but it's not so easy. As soon as the money is gone, obviously for victims to realize, it takes time, right? It's usually, sometimes it's direct, but sometimes it takes like victims 1 day or 1.5 day to figure out they're scammed. They talk to their kid or they talk to a friend and they're like, hey, did you know that it's a scam? Once they realize it and they report it to the bank, if it's more than 24 hours, I can tell you that this money is probably not even with this other bank anymore. If my money went to a Spanish account, from that Spanish account, it might have gone to like another Spanish bank. It might have gone to like UK bank. They might have taken it out of an ATM, and the money is basically gone. Yeah, if you don't report it within a few hours, I would say let's say tops three. That's just a gamble, but it's really hard to get your money back unless somewhere in a fraud prevention system the bank was able to stop the money or freeze the assets. If there are smaller amounts and it's not that much different than their normal transaction behavior, this money can belong like 10 shekels, 10 banks further up. And then you will need 10 banks calling each other, getting this money from A to B to Z, but you can also not send it back from the last one to the first one because that's not how it works financially. So there is a much more behind it than you might think, as you said.
So, can you give us advice how protect your bank account nowadays?
How to protect your bank account, I think it's there's different levels to every fraud, and there's different levels in which you can protect yourself. First level is data, and data is super important in fraud. It's super important to you, but it's also super important to criminals. As we said, if something makes sense, like someone already lost their phone and then they're asking for money for a new phone, it makes sense, right? And as the email that you got, same thing. If you fill in your credit card information and you fill in your name and you fill in your street, this is all information that scammers need to prepare a good fraud, prepare a good scam. So not having your data around on every website. If you're not sure if you're ordering shoes online or whatever you're ordering, make sure you use an email address that you don't use for your important business, like for your banking business. Make sure you use a password. This is like obviously very basic knowledge, but make sure you use a password that you don't like repeat on multiple websites. Other than that, obviously there's a large part where you can do nothing about. If an institution has a data leak
Yeah.
where your data is going to be stolen, which happens more and more, then it is really important that you check your most important accounts and maybe change your passwords if you figure it out. But sometimes you don't even figure it out. So that's the hard part. So first of all, try to share as little data as possible with as little institutions, and don't overshare what doesn't need to be shared, to protect your data as much as possible. Secondly, obviously, you need to be aware and you need to be educated, and this is the part that is very hard, because of technology and because of fast-paced changes. Just know which things you could expect. Know what to look for in emails. For example, which email address is it coming from? Is it the same as the email address that I usually get an email from this provider? If you're on a website, is it protected? Is it secured? Is the license there? Are the photos, if you're buying something online, are they crisp? Are they clear? Does the website make sense? Do they have a massive product offering? So it is very important to educate yourself on like the different crimes and what can happen to you. And thirdly, I would say is check around with people. Like if you're so I've really what I really liked at Bonk is we had a picture on the bathroom that said, um, if you're not trusting something and someone is asking you to do something, always make sure you put four eyes to it, right? So if I don't trust an email and I'm not 100% sure, first I'm going to check through another channel, like so through SMS or maybe through the internal company chat system that they use. I'm going to check with another one. Hey, what do you think about this? Do you think this is real? Do you think this could be maybe a scam? This could be fraud. It's not never stupid to ask, right? And maybe another person has more experience or they know about it. So these are like some small things that you can do to keep yourself safe and secure. And if you're younger, check on your parents. If you see something like deepfakes, like voice cloning, talk to them about it. How stupid it might sound. Like, hey, dad, I've just seen this. Please be aware. Don't fall for it. If you're in doubt, call me. I think these are very good things. So look out for each other, look out for yourself, keep your data safe.
Oh, it's a very valuable advices, and I agree with all of them. Especially in like nowadays when everyone posted a lot on social network, so
Oh,
it
yeah.
is pretty hard to stay. How it's like stay yourself without.
Stay
Yeah,
safe. Stay yourself. That's another good thing, what you're saying, by the way. Social media, lock it. People don't need to know. If they don't know you, they don't need to know it. Just lock it for anyone that doesn't need to see it, because this is all free, available information that fraudsters could use.
yeah. So people right now who probably open my Instagram account realize that I'm doing CrossFit. So if someone call you say from this CrossFit gym, just say that I want doing the exercise there. It's not me. I don't have any sponsorship from this gym. It's just like my personal um, point to say that I'm doing some sports. It's only like that. It's nothing else.
No, exactly.
And if we're back to crypto, so if I have, for
Mhm.
example, for some reasons I have account in one of the companies and I have 10 bitcoins on it. I'm luckily if I
Yeah.
have.
You are very lucky. Yeah, you're a wealthy
But
man.
I'm not unfortunately. But what,
Don't tell the
yeah,
scammers.
what I need to do to stay out of trouble, and it remains the same on my account.
Right. What you got to do, obviously try and protect your account. Just as I said with the passwords, make sure that if you have, like, if you're keeping it with an exchange, make sure that you have a different password for the account than you have with the other with the other important things like your Hotmail, like your other banks. Just very easy, very basic. Other than that, you can always, if you have the right knowledge, you can always put it, of course, in cold storage, like in your own personal privately hosted wallet. One of the things that you can do to keep it secure, and you can keep those secure with like 16, I think a sequence of 16 words, which is also more secure. Other than that, if you get an email from your exchange or wherever you're keeping your funds, just always make sure that you check who is it coming from. Is this actually the right email address? I just basically heard that some crypto exchanges do something very smart now. Whenever you get an email from them, they will always use one word that you can put in yourself on the website, and you can always make sure that so this is a word you've already like established yourself online, and they will always include this word in the mailing so that you know for sure that, hey, this is like trustworthy because they use like my code word. I think it was pretty cool actually.
Yeah.
Or something that I know that the bank does, which is also very cool, is whenever they call you, you can check in the app that you have on your phone whether this call is actually from the bank,
Yeah,
because it will
that's
light
a
up.
good
It will
one.
show
Yeah,
you.
I know one of the
It's
banks
a really
doing
good
this one.
one.
Yeah, that's good.
So basically, first thing I would say, they never call you ever, but some do. Some more traditional banks, if they ever call you, it's not rude to hang up. Like just immediately hang up, call them back, look for the number online, make sure it's them. Especially don't give them any information if you're not sure if they're them. Other than that, yeah, just be aware that if you have a lot of funds, like a lot of people might be out there to get you. So put it with an exchange that's trustworthy, that you trust with your money, where that has good protection, that is keeping your funds 1-1. So basically all the money that you put in, if everybody at the same time would want to get their funds out, this money would be available. They're not like investing your money unless you really want them to do that. um what else? Can you think of anything else?
Uh,
What would you do to keep your crypto safe if
I
you
would
had
say
10
because of my 100 millions of bitcoins, so that
right.
and I'm doing like podcasting just because I'm like rich and famous. But on serious notes, I would say 2FA quite useful, especially like if you really want to protect your account. Extra additional step of verification not going to be harmful.
Oh yeah,
I
that's a
would
very good
say
one,
it is going to be
actually.
very useful,
Yeah,
and make sure that you know where's your money, and not just like create thousands of accounts and split them between it. Just like make, yeah,
true.
something like that. Actually, I have two quite interesting questions. It's going to be easy reply, but this might be a long reply. It's up to you. So,
Yeah.
what's the coolest fraud prevention feature exists on the market right now? Doesn't matter what's the industry. What's your opinion? The coolest feature that's right now?
Oh, that's a good question. I think one of the coolest fraud prevention features right now, it's actually, I would say, it's two things: behavioral
Yeah.
analytics, and it is device analytics. And but especially combining all of this data together, which makes it very valuable, I would say. So let me explain. Behavioral analytics is whereas you can track how someone behaves in your application, in your banking environment, or in your crypto environment, meaning that from there are companies, I will not call names here, but I have a few favorite ones. There are companies that build technology whereas you can track from onboarding to well, infinity, as long as someone keeps using the app, how someone behaves in the app, and the longer someone uses it, the better this data will become. Meaning that from the onboarding, I might hold my phone that I have right here, maybe like this or like this because I cannot see very well, or to the side, or the way I swipe, the way I type, the way how fast I swipe, how fast I type, the way whether I copy and paste stuff. There's a lot of things that you can actually track, and you can with certain technologies you can create like a profile for someone. So this is how Vera always behaves in the app. She knows like she always uses these tabs and she goes this fast, and she usually uses these features, and she will copy paste here, and she so these are all things that you can track. Also, if someone is calling while they're using, for example, the banking app or the crypto app, which is obviously like a cool fraud feature. Also, whether someone is might be on FaceTime, like you and I, there's a camera open. All of these things you can track, and you can create like a normal profile. If I would leave my phone here on the table and I would walk away and I would leave my banking app open and you would come and you would take my phone and you would go in the banking app, obviously your behavior would be different. Like you might hold my phone different, you might type slower, you might not know my banking environment, so you might like be looking for things. These are things that you can track. And as soon as something like that happens, or someone like, as soon as you think that someone else might be using the application or might be instructing you through a phone call, you can actually lock certain features, or you can impose higher thresholds for transactions, actually lower
Yeah,
thresholds, I would say. So I think that's a really cool feature. I think a lot of companies are working on it. Some have done it very nicely, and we can still improve on it. Um, I would say there's a lot of like do a lot more with it, and I think it's really cool. It's a beginning.
that's great.
But
And I have
yeah.
another question. Um, since you're living
Sure.
in Netherlands, so to be
Mhm.
honest, I'm gonna be Google later on, but quite seek your opinion. So here in UK, one of the growing things that happens right now that's it became more and more often that someone on the bikes going around the city and stealing
Yeah,
your
sure. If
phone.
I
So we
understand the
have
question.
two types of fraud. One of them, people in UK who
Right.
stolen phones, and they
Yeah.
get some amount of money from this one. And we have another type of fraudsters in Netherlands who stolen bikes from the street and sold them online.
Or they're stealing
Yeah,
bikes. Obviously, the question is that I'm gonna ask you back is it about the phone? Is it about the materiality of the
I
phone?
believe so. Yeah, this
I don't think
really.
so. I don't think so. You know what the catch is? When you're on your phone and you're walking, you have your phone open. Like you don't you it's unlocked. A lot of apps nowadays, such as your banking app, they don't even require you to log in anymore. It will like automatically, you don't have to put a code, or sometimes you don't even have to put your face if it's unlocked already. Not for all of them, but obviously there are also a lot of apps on your phone, and there's a lot of information on your phone. I mean, this phone, what is it worth now? Maybe seven, eight, 900 euros. Okay, that's interesting. It's a little bit of an older phone. It's an iPhone 13. But if you get into someone's banking environment and you can make some transfers, or if you get into someone's crypto wallet and you can make some transfers, or if you maybe can find personal information in the notes that people save, whatever data is on there, it's much more valuable. You can use this data to create another fraud or a scam later on, and you have the phone. Obviously, it depends on the type of bike you want to steal. If it's like a very fancy, like electric kind of bike, they might go up to 3, 4,000 euros. It might be worth a lot, but data is much more valuable than people think.
So you believe they are looking after personal data rather than device, which you can put in a
I
stone for a second if you have another device nearby.
Yeah, I think so. If I think it's not so much maybe about the phone, it's more about the data on the phone. And especially as someone is typing on it, it's unlocked,
Yeah,
right?
never thought about it actually
Um,
from that perspective. I'm most of the time walking the street in the headphones and just like my phone somewhere in the pocket or somewhere else. I never had these problems, but it was simple questions. But I'm glad that you how you opened this one. I don't have any other questions. It was very cool recording. We discussed a lot of the things. I'm quite happy to hear a lot from your experience about different aspects that we
no worries at
discussed.
all.
Yeah, and it was fascinating time to discuss about all of this, and I hope we might have another episode later on.
Thank you so much, Ivan. It was very interesting speaking to you. Very good questions. I had to think about some of quite a bit, but I'm very happy to continue this conversation later on. And thanks again for having me. It was very interesting.
I'm glad to hear this one. So I want to say my word which I say on each episode, which is cut.